Hello and welcome back to the final lesson of Module 4. In this lesson, we will explore ways in which we can prepare for investors and ensure the applications for funding and loans which we submit will work out successfully. To begin this lesson, we'll look at what is required when applying to investors for funding, providing tips and looking at commonly asked questions. While it is not always a requirement, you may still be asked to present your social enterprise to an investor. We will look at how to effectively and efficiently present to investors to ensure successful funding before looking into the common errors some social enterprises make in the period after they receive funding. By the end of this module, you will understand the significance of ensuring a strong financial plan from the beginning, understanding the basics right through to securing funding and spending it wisely on the growth and sustainability of your social enterprise. Our aim is to ensure you feel much more confident in your ability to manage the financial aspects of your social enterprise. As a reminder, at any stage, feel free to pause the video to take notes, rewind to hear information again, or stop the video to complete a learning activity. Let's begin. In this lesson, we will cover 3 topics, each of which has been designed to support your financial learning on the path to being a social entrepreneur. This lesson will discuss how to apply to investors, how to present to investors, and what happens after you receive funding from investors. The first topic we will cover in this lesson is applying to investors. Writing an application is a daunting task. Very few people will openly admit to enjoying the process of application writing. Whether you feel comfortable writing an application or not, here are 10 tips on how to successfully write one. 1. Forget about the money, at least initially. When considering making a grant application to a funder, many organisations start with the wrong questions, such as what staff and other resources do we need, how much money do we need, and how much money can we get? While these are important questions, they should not be on the top of your agenda. The primary concern of funders is that your project is well planned and that it will truly make a difference in the lives of your target community. Therefore, the best way to secure funding is to initially forget about money and resources and concentrate on ensuring that you have a well planned out project which effectively meets the clearly identified need. In making an effective application, important questions to start with include: what are we trying to achieve? What are the real and positive differences we are seeking to make in the lives of our service users? What methods can we use to fulfill our aims? How will we know when we are succeeding? And when you are satisfied that you have a well-planned and worthwhile project, your thoughts can then turn to how it can be best resourced. 2. Do your research thoroughly. According to the Association of Charitable Foundations, up to 50% of applications received by funders do not meet their published criteria. This represents a significant opportunity for those organisations that are prepared to spend time and effort on careful research. As a very basic minimum, you should read the guidelines published by the funder. Other research methods that might bear fruit include talking to other organisations supported by the funder, reading the annual reports of charities doing similar work to your own, and getting the funder's annual reports and studying past grants. 3. Sit down with your funder. When considering making an application, one of the first questions to ask is it possible to get a face-to-face meeting with this funder? This kind of personal contact is worth many times more than simply sending a cold application. The most successful organisations work hard to build and maintain an influential contact network. In our experience, a planned, personal, face-to-face approach is essential if your organisation is to have continued major success in securing grant aid and major gifts. 4. Build your credibility. One of the primary reasons why applications get funded is that the funders are convinced that the applicant organisation is well organised, has a good track record, and is an appropriate organisation to carry out the proposed project. Any grant application should stress your organisation's strengths and outline its successes in organising similar projects in the past. Perhaps this could be done by quoting relevant facts and figures about your achievements or quoting from positive evaluations of your work. Perhaps you have some prominent people involved on your board or management committee. Make sure you mention this in your applications. 5. Be compelling and concise. The needs section of your proposal should be a concise, convincing overview of the needs of your organisation, what it wants to address, and should be about the needs and aspirations of your beneficiaries, not about the needs of your organisation. You should include information that is as specific and local as possible. For example, a community group dealing with the needs of a local area will have a more compelling case if they can quote facts and figures specific to that area. 6. Use the KISS principle and avoid jargon and waffle. KISS stands for Keep It Short and Sweet. Say what you need to say, but keep it as short as possible. Where there isn't a form to fill in, use a logical structure. Move from the general to the specific and avoid needless repetition. 7. Spend some time on the budget. When you do get around to working out what funds you will need, it is a good idea to spend some time on your budget. Many organisations pluck figures from the air, and it's not a good idea to use a rough guess about what items might cost. The most important thing about budgeting is to make sure that you have a logical basis for your figures. Funders can tell the difference between a budget based on guesswork and one which has been thoroughly calculated, so spend time doing this. 8. Imagine you were the funder assessing the application. Often a good way to strengthen your funding application is to try and pick holes in it. A good way of doing this is to circulate a copy of the application to colleagues and further discuss any aspects of the application which strike you as being weak or not as strong as the other aspects. Having identified the weaknesses, you can then work on putting them right. 9. Proofread. When you are satisfied with your application draft, let someone else read it. This should be someone from outside of your organisation, preferably somebody from outside of the sector who has no knowledge of the subject matter you are describing in your application. You will be surprised at some of the things an external reader will point out. For example, you may find that some of the phrases and concepts you talk about aren't fully understandable. 10. Think long term. The organisations that have the most success with their funding applications are the ones who generally active and are well known in their fields of interest. Organisations who develop their own policies and thinking on major issues in their field, respond to local or national government and other consultations, comment on reports and draft legislation, developing their own campaign materials and other campaigns, get represented on appropriate local, regional or national umbrella bodies, pressure groups, think tanks, task forces, etc., and form alliances and partnerships with other organisations to take forward joint aims, often find that this quite naturally spills over into successful fundraising. There are some typical questions that an investor or funder is going to ask. Many of the answers to these questions should be contained within your business plan, but it's useful to prepare a master document that is used for funding applications, so any team member can copy and paste information into the applications efficiently and consistently. These include 1. Your contact details. 2. Your organization's aims and objectives. 3. The background of your organization. Most funders will want to know a little bit about your history. What is the size or scale of your organization? And if the funder gave you this money, would you have the capacity and previous experience to implement the required tasks you propose? 4. Evidence of need. Increasingly, funders will want to see that there is evidence to prove that what you are applying for is needed in the community or location where you are applying. And how can you prove it? Have you looked at the national statistics and seen if your area performs above or below the national average? Have you conducted quantitative or qualitative surveys or other forms of feedback in your community to see what the residents say? In order to demonstrate the extent of the need, it is often useful to cite statistics from a recognized source. 5. What are you applying for? In reality, you may be applying for more staff or resources for your organization, but many funders are not keen to fund organizations regardless of how worthy the cause. Most funders make funding available to tackle particular societal or social needs within communities. So you need to articulate what you are applying for in terms that allow the funder to determine that funding you will contribute to them successfully tackling the problem they sought out to address. 6. How does your social enterprise meet the criteria? Talk to any funder and they will tell you how difficult it is to fund every worthy cause that applies. That's why they impose strict criteria. You stand a greater chance of receiving funding if you can outline how your application for funding meets all of the criteria set out. Then you move beyond being merely worthy. Now you are worthy and relevant. 7. How will you monitor and evaluate your social enterprise? Most funders will want to know how successful their investment in a project has been. At a minimum, they will ask for a social enterprise to be self-assessed. That is, the applicant will state upfront how it plans to assess the business developments, collect the monitoring information, and conduct the evaluation of the operations. If the monitoring and evaluation processes are included at the planning stage, this becomes much more easier to answer. 8. Budget. Every funder will require a realistic and well-cost budget to be submitted with the application. Regardless of what you ask the funder for, you will need to fully cost the social enterprise and include every possible expense. 9. Is the organization sustainable? When a funder asks if a social enterprise is sustainable, they want to know how you will fund the social enterprise beyond the amount of money they will provide. They want to see that the organization will generate its own revenue through services and contract delivery, etc. Don't rely on other organizations to sustain your social enterprise for you. You are best advised to demonstrate what you can realistically do with your own resources to secure ongoing funding. The second topic we will cover is presenting to an investor. Not every application will require you to present to investors. However, it is important to always be prepared in case you are called to present. Your presentation needs to tell the investors what they want to know. Where possible, ask for a list of questions from the investment panel to identify what they are looking for first so you can prepare a presentation accordingly. Remember to prepare an investor pitch that comprises of a number of communication tools to ensure it communicates effectively to your different types of audience. Practice your presentation and try to mimic real-life settings as much as possible. Try speaking the presentation to someone you would trust and ask the right questions. You are aiming for being so comfortable with your business and all of your figures that you will show your passion for the idea and for the impact your social enterprise will have. Pitching a product, service, or idea can be a daunting experience, especially if you have never done something like it before. While not every presentation or investor is the same, there are some general rules to follow when presenting your social enterprise to investors. 1. Know your audience. Your pitch will change depending on your audience. An investor pitch, for example, will be different to a customer or client pitch. 2. Structure your pitch in a story format. Start with a wow opening that will capture the attention of those listening. Have a limit of between 3 and 5 main points. An investor pitch, for example, often follows the logical flow of problem, solution, market, team, and of financials. Close with a summary. Thank the audience and provide an action or focus for the future. Where possible, overlap the closing paragraph with the opening paragraph. 3. Ensure there is a logical link between your points. Take the audience by hand, step by step, through your pitch. They should be hanging on to every single word. 4. Keep your pitch as concise, clear, and simple as possible. And remember, less is more. A pitch is like the trailer of a movie. Leave the audience wanting more instead of overloading them with too much information, and avoid any technical jargon. 5. Engage and entertain your audience with relevant examples and anecdotes that we'll remember. It's not all about facts, figures, and statistics. Think from the heart as well as the head. Have at least one real-life example that can illustrate how your company helped one specific person. This can engage the audience as well as make it easier to understand what line of business you are in and how you have an impact. 6. Your voice is like a musical instrument. It plays a huge part in how your message is received. You need to vary the pitch and pace of your voice. Use pauses and emphasis. 7. Ensure a confident posture. You need to appear confident in order to instill confidence in your audience. Shoulders back, fix your feet to the floor, keep your hands by your side, and gesture as you would normally. Use eye contact with a pleasant facial expression. 8. Nerves are normal, but just manage them. Breathe mindfully, use visualization and/or positive affirmations. Shift the focus from yourself to getting the message across to your audience. 9. Practice your pitch as often as possible. Preparation and practice is the price paid for superiority. 10. Be interested and passionate about the content of your pitch. It will have a ripple effect on your audience. If you are not excited about your pitch, how can you expect your audience to be? This topic will look at what to do when you have successfully received funding from investors. Getting funding is an important milestone that's worth celebrating. However, getting funded isn't a finish line, it's a beginning. The steps you take after getting your investment are more important than the money you raised. So you must deliver on your promise. When you pitched to your investors, you told them what you planned to do with the money you were raising. Once the money is in the bank, your top priority should be to deliver on that promise. Ask yourself, what steps do we need to take to deliver on our promise? Next, update your financial model. It's easy to skip this step, particularly if you're an early startup. But once the money is in the bank, you should update your model accordingly. Your balance sheet, cash actuals, budget, forecast, hiring plan, and everything in between should be updated to include the new investment and your plans for how you want to spend the money. If you're using a tool like Finmark, this is super easy. If you're using a spreadsheet or template, it might take more time. Either way, updating your financial model should be a top priority after you raise money. 3. Don't spend it all at once. Just because you received €50,000 in funding doesn't mean you need to spend it all immediately. If the COVID-19 pandemic taught us anything, it's that you never know what's going to happen in the future. Having money set aside in capital reserves can allow your startup to stay in business in case of emergencies or when unexpected expenses pop up. Capital reserves aren't only for major economic events. What if your growth strategy doesn't go as planned, and as a result, your revenue growth is slow or customer drop-off is higher than expected? Capital reserves can give you some breathing room to course correct without the fear of running out of money. Avoid unplanned purchases. You probably made a detailed plan of what you were going to do with your new funding. You knew exactly how much it was going to new hires, marketing expenses, new services, and other categories. However, for some reason, those plans can change once the money hits your account. Having access to millions of euros can make it very tempting to make unnecessary purchases that weren't in your plan. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Buying new office equipment, expensive software, a salesperson pitched to you, upgrading everyone's computer, and the list goes on. It's easy to be fiscally responsible when you're on a tight budget and don't have the funds available. The companies that truly stand the test of time are the ones that are able to have control even when the funds aren't so limited. And don't forget about investor updates. Regular investor updates can go a long way in instilling confidence and building trust with your investors. You don't have to send them daily emails letting them know what you're doing with the money or to get advice on every decision. However, a monthly or quarterly update lets investors know that you're making progress and that their money isn't going to waste. That way, when you're seeking your next round, you can reach out to your existing pool of investors and they won't hesitate to write another check. As for what should be in your investor updates, keep it simple. Update them on major wins and achievements, major customers you've acquired, what progress you've made since the last update, and current financials and any changes to your forecast and any major obstacles or hurdles that they can help you with. We often forget that donors are our customers, our partners in philanthropy, and members of our organisational family. They deserve the best care that we can give them, not just to keep them coming back and giving more, but because of their generous spirit and commitments to our cause. So be consistent. Good service raises expectations. Your donor needs to know that they can depend on a consistently high standard of performance from you. Be quick. Don't irritate donors with delayed responses. Promptness will pay off. Be visible. Publicize your organization's service personnel. Put their pictures up on the website and in your brochures. Let donors know that they are there to help and serve. Be meticulous. Your records should be well kept and organized so that you can find information about a donor quickly and efficiently. Be available. Make sure that the donors can reach you at any time. If you can't provide 24-hour service, make sure donors can leave messages and then follow up as quickly as possible. Be open and honest. If you screw up, admit it and fix it. Never cover it up. Donors will respect you and trust you for your honesty. Be cheerful and helpful. Never let donors think that what you do is a chore. If it is, find another job. Donor service should be a joy. Remember, together you and the donor are doing something great. Using these questions as a guide, create a draft application for your social enterprise. The grant is for organizations looking to support their target customers in increasing the accessibility to resources. What are your enterprise's aims and objectives? Tell us about your organization. How does your organization benefit the target group it is aimed at? What are you applying for? How does your enterprise meet the grant criteria? How will you monitor and evaluate the project? Include your budget, and what is the long-term sustainability of your organization? Finally, to conclude this lesson, let's revise what we have discussed. Writing a good application takes time. Start a document full of the things that you add into grant applications regularly. This will save you time in the future, having a single document with all of these pieces of information to hand. Not every application will require you to present to investors. However, it is important to always be prepared in case you are called to present. Getting funded is an important milestone that's worth celebrating. However, getting funded isn't a finish line. It's a beginning. Whether you're only starting out or have begun to conduct business, we wish you the very best of luck in every success managing the financial aspects of your social enterprise. Don't forget to refer back to your notes or re-watch lessons when you need to focus your mind on certain tasks, calculations, or financial tips. Looking forward to seeing you again in the next module.